Do you find any reward in what you do? Do you find any inspiration from your own efforts of what you do? Always strive to be better. I started out as a therapist working with one patient in a clinic or training one person at one time. Like, I'm working one-on-one with one person. Many years later, here I am into this pursuit. I'm doing Athlean-X. To realize that there's hundreds of thousands of people and millions of people watching one video at a certain time. The internet creates an opportunity to reach people globally in a way that we're never going to be able to appreciate. There was a reason for me to make the videos, and if it only was seen by a few people, I'd be helping a few people. My dad's everywhere on this channel, I think, good and bad, good and bad. My father was tough on me. He wasn't necessarily the easiest guy to please. I think from a business and professional sense, it's driven me. And then you take that journey slowly. People are not looking to take a slow journey these days. They want the instant gratification. Or they see the thing on Instagram, they see the 1,000-pound deadlift, and they want, I want to try to do that, and they keep leaping up their numbers going there. A lot of us will like to just stop maybe 1 or 2 reps after it starts to burn. Can you stop 20 reps after it burns? Can you rest, pause, and keep going through the burn? Those methods will also carry through from a mindset standpoint into their training.
Hi, it's Brian Rose from London Real. You probably know that we've just recently been re-platformed on YouTube after 25 months completely in the dark. The truth is, I really need your help. What I really need you to do is click on that subscribe button right now, like this video, and maybe even leave a comment or share the link with friends. We're really fighting against an algorithm that's tried to keep us quiet for so long. And the more subscribers we have, the more people watch our content, the better guests we can bring you, the better content, and we can continue transforming lives. We've been doing this for 14 years now. I want to do this for another 14 years, but I really need your help. So click on that subscribe button, like the video, leave a comment, share this, and we're going to continue to bring you more and more great content. Thank you. This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is Jeff Cavaliere, the American physical therapist, elite fitness coach, and founder of Athlean-X training platform. You're known for your cutting-edge approach to functional strength training and have been called the brains behind the brawn for your science-based training methods. You regularly contribute to top fitness magazines and have trained some of the biggest stars in baseball and WWE. Even Sylvester Stallone has said that you know more about strength training than anybody on the planet. Your YouTube channel, Athlean-X, is massive with nearly 10 million subscribers and over 1.3 billion views. Jeff, welcome to London Real in New York City.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here.
Dude, great having you here. Loved watching all the videos, and I love the fact that you're kind of an OG YouTuber. You've been around since way back in the day.
Right? I've been there since 2009, so now 11 years.
Yeah.
Doesn't feel like it though, but it's been a lot of videos.
Do you think that helps when people can go back and see you in 2009, putting stuff out with some camcorder, that's like not edited very well and bad lighting, just to show that you've been doing this and committed to this for so long?
I think so. I mean, there's an irony behind that camera actually. It wasn't until about, and I'm being totally honest, about 3 weeks ago that we actually changed that camcorder out. So I still use that same one for 11 years. Wow. More so because of just being, I think this kind of represents me. Like, just be true to the message. It's about the message. It's not necessarily about, the beauty of the shot and everything. For me, I want to get the content out there. So I stubbornly resisted the switch of camera for so long, even though when Jesse came on board, he's like, you gotta get rid of this equipment, man. This is old. But now, granted, the newer videos we put out look way better and look way nicer. But again, I do think it's important to just put out the good content as opposed to really worrying about the fluff around it.
Yeah, you look at your top 5 videos, and I want to get into them later. It's obviously because you've gone super deep on real practical content that people are consuming. It's not because you got the latest gimbal. It's not because you're doing it with a celebrity. It's because it's like, you really want these messages to get out there, and
Yeah.
that's what people consume. So
Yeah, I believe so. I think that that's what makes people stick to anything. Like they're gonna watch your show because they like it, they're entertained, they're enjoying the content. It's not necessarily because of how fancy, although this is a beautiful place in here that you got. But it's about what the content is always.
Yeah. Tell me about this new day and age of social media influencers, which didn't exist when you started back in the day. It didn't really exist even 5 years ago. No. Where now I'm sure there's tons of people out there throwing out fitness advice.
Yeah.
And I can already see your demeanor. And yet a lot of them, they
I'm
can't.
moving in my chair.
You're moving in your chair. You can't. They don't necessarily walk the walk. They talk the talk, but you see them, and you don't always necessarily agree that they're the ones that should be preaching that message. Tell me about how you feel about that and what you see in this current day and age.
I mean, I'm not one to judge anybody in terms of who should or should not be delivering content, but because I think if you have a passion for it, it's a good starting spot. And a lot of these people might have a passion for it, but it goes, as I've always believed, that there's a requirement for the responsibility you have as the creator to put out information that's going to benefit people and not hurt them, right? So what happened was there was this evolution over the years where everyone's got a channel. Everybody can start a channel today. They can start an Instagram account if they want. They can start a YouTube channel. But what are the requirements for the content that they put out there? It could be bad advice. Just because it's advice doesn't mean it's good advice. And there's a lot of bad advice being thrown out there. And the other thing that sort of happened was there's this sort of invitation to just copy other people. So if they look at someone like me and they say, oh, Jeff's doing this stuff that's science-based, I'm gonna do science-based info. And they sort of recite what they hear. It doesn't mean they understand what they hear. And I've actually seen it firsthand where there's videos out there where people are like reciting the fancy words and getting them all wrong, where they're talking about abduction and they're adducting. And there's a lot of that out there, and it's very phony to me. But unfortunately, people that are watching it, that are learning from a lot of these people, they don't know it's phony because they hear the fancy word and they think that that's what it's supposed to be. And then they go further and they kind of try some of the exercises that they might tell them to do that are downright ridiculous and could hurt people. So I just think that along with being able to, the ease of access to start the platform, there should be some requirement that you have to withhold a certain level of education and responsibility to put out high quality content that's actually safe, and I think that's where we kind of have maybe missed the mark a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. How would you describe your training philosophy?
I mean, I think my training philosophy is somewhat definitely cross-platform. I mean, I believe that you need to train all aspects of human motion and ability. Like you need to be strong. But you can't just be strong, because at the expense of just being strong, you can break down. You can get more injury. You have to be able to address that through corrective exercise. That's the boring stuff, but that's the stuff as a PT that I know is so important to maintaining your ability to do the other stuff. So there's a corrective component. There's a functional component. And I do kind of hate that word because functional training kind of went in and out as a phase. And when it came in, it had the merits of core strength and being able to have balance and coordination. But then it kind of took a little bit like of an extra leap in that phase where it became maybe some nonsense stuff.
There's a lot of weird functional things happening now.
There are some weird functional things happening now. I think the trend right now for sure is more towards just the basic lifts done progressively to get stronger on them. I think that's where the pendulum has swung. But again, I think that can be very misplaced also. That kind of advice can be very misplaced. You're just trying to get people out there to just chase numbers. And I've put a lot of content out there to say that just chasing numbers is not a good path to follow, because if your body's not equipped to handle those progressive numbers, all it's going to do is compensate and cheat and try to get the next number, really building upon a cracked foundation. And that foundation has to be strong. And a lot of times building the foundation requires the corrective exercises, the extra exercises that are meant to sort of enhance your ability to do the compound lifts and the big lifts. And then you take that journey slowly. People are not looking to take a slow journey these days. They want the instant gratification. Or they see the thing on Instagram, they see the 1,000-pound deadlift, and they want, I want to try to do that. And they keep leaping up their numbers going there. We've just sort of lost an appreciation for for the process and how long it actually does take. I mean, you've been training for your whole life, right? I mean, there's a process to it. Like, you don't just get there overnight. But I think social media probably rewards instant gratification more than anything else.
What are numbers that people chase a lot? Is it like your squat or your
bench?
bench?
I mean, squat, bench, deadlift. You know, people want to be able to, you know, at least bench 300 pounds and, you know, squat 400, deadlift 500, and work their way up from there, you know. But there's a lot of body types that aren't necessarily equipped to handle that. And even in the athletic population, I talk about this a lot of times with one of my buddies who's a strength coach with the Oakland Raiders. Like, they have a lot of their athletes deadlift from just a mat or two off of the ground. Just elevate it 2 or 3 inches, because their bodies are so big. And a lot of times you've probably seen the type of athlete, like they've got very long limbs or a short torso, or like just they're not, you know, wonderfully proportionate. And getting into the position to execute the lift properly isn't necessarily a given. And because they're such great compensators, athletes are such great, I call them all the time masters of compensation. They can do things that you would never, to the naked eye, necessarily detect, and they'll get the job done. But it doesn't mean that they're not.
So they're using other muscles,
totally.
And using other weird postures.
Something else, and and rep after rep after rep, in addition to their skill work and their performance, you know, they're doing what they actually do for a living. That stuff starts to add up and break them down. And you know, those are the kind of things I think that, you know, warrant some extra consideration for. Is your body actually prepared to do what it is you're asking it to do? You know, and that requires a whole well-rounded approach. Their body is so multidimensional. It requires an enormously well-rounded approach to fitness. So I've never liked to pigeonhole myself in one area. I just think it sort of is a blend of a lot of different things.
Yeah, I chased numbers for a long time, and I was chasing my bench press for a long time, and now I don't know why I was doing that.
Right. Well, I mean, a lot of people wind up questioning after the fact, and I think with it being a little bit of the obsession right now, again, if we had an era of functional training, now we're sort of in the era of chasing numbers. And there are going to be a lot of guys like you who later on, years from now, are going to be like, why was I doing that? You know, why was I chasing? Because it's not the end all be all. A lot of guys are chasing strength numbers in pursuit of just muscle growth, just because they want to look better or bigger. And we've talked about it so many times, it's not the only way to build muscle. Like, progressive overload is one method for doing it, but it's not the only way. There's some methods that actually utilize much, much lighter weights, but done in a painstaking sort of metabolic way that is really difficult, but it's not going to require a lot of the demand on the joint. So
like a slow push-up.
Yeah.
Which can be very strenuous.
Yeah.
Probably more difficult than heavy bench press.
I've shown that before too. That, you know, that you can, if you do a push-up through its actual full range of motion and you go slower, like, I don't care how many you think you could do now, you could pretty much cut that in half, because you're not doing that many. And when you think about it, you know, muscles are basically just speaking a language of tension. They don't know what the weight, they can't read the number on the side of the plate or the dumbbell. Like, they just feel what they feel, and you can manipulate that feel a number of different ways, either through the pace and the tempo that you're training, or the explosiveness that you apply to it. Like, there's a lot of different factors that you can apply to change the tension that muscle is going to feel, and that muscle will respond in a way to adapt and try to, you know, come back better able to handle that stress. So it's not the end all be all. And I do think there will be people that are questioning why they focus so hard on just one element of their training these days.
I've never heard that term. Muscles speak a language of tension.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, that is their, like, and I always feel like when I'm training myself, like, I'm trying to speak that language with them. I'm trying to get over the human desire to just speak in a language of numbers, because I know that the body doesn't respond that way. And when I did do that, I got much more enjoyment out of my training and much more success. Because there are days I'll go in there and we've all felt this, like, I'll go in the gym and I don't feel so prepared to train. Like, I'm not like, I know I won't be setting a PR today if that was the goal. I just don't have it. But it doesn't mean that the whole workout shit and I got to throw it away. I can just, okay, seems like it's gonna be one of those days where I got to kind of downshift a little bit. So I'll lighten the weights, and then I really start to, like, feel the tension and really make sure that whatever muscle I'm trying to train at that moment, I'm making it do the work, as opposed to just sort of heaving the weight around because I knew I was supposed to go for a number that I'm never going to reach that day. And most often those workouts are incredibly productive because I kind of tapped into first of all, I surrendered to the whole idea that I'm not going to have my best today. And then I made it my best because I took that challenge of the lighter weights and really just focused on that tension as opposed to some number.
Well, Schwarzenegger talks about he used to meditate on the muscle sometimes when he would train, and just focus on that and really like think about that muscle, what it's going through, as opposed to just knocking out the reps at this weight. Is that something like that?
Yeah, 100%. There, as a physical therapist, like what I like to do, there was a guy who influenced me. His name was Gary Gray, who actually was very friendly with one of my professors at the University of Connecticut. They were good friends. And he had just a different mind when it came to PT and visualizing the biomechanics of the body. And what he used to do is he came in and lectured us a few times. It was just such an amazing treat. But he was like, all right, so if I'm the knee and the hip isn't really doing its job, I'm like, hey, hip, why are you not doing what you're doing here? You're making me do all kinds of work. And he would speak that way, but that's how he would think. And if you think that way, it does change the whole game. Like when you think about it, like I think that's probably one of my biggest strengths as a PT is to be able to adapt and revise exercises based on whatever it is you tell me. If I'm having you do something and say, oh, I don't know, I'm kind of feeling a little bit here, I know exactly where to go from there because I know that, okay, if you're feeling this, then that must mean you're kind of stressing it from here or here in a different way than I want you to. So why don't you turn your foot out a little bit? And you're like, oh yeah, okay, that feels good. I think that's one of my strengths because I did try to learn in that manner of like everything's connected. Yeah. Everything has, these repercussions of whatever happens down here is going to be felt up the chain, and the same thing kind of can happen with muscles. I mean, the muscle is trying to perform a lift, but if you want, I mean, look, our bodies are going to try to cheat at any opportunity. So if I can't curl a weight up, I start to lean back because it's not just because I'm trying to heave the weight up, but like I'm trying to recruit muscles in my back to lift for me, right? To extend backwards, to try to bring the bar up so that the biceps don't have to curl it. They're in this position, and if I lean back, the arms come up anyway. So it's always about muscles trying to grab some help from other muscles. And if you think through it like Arnold did, you get a really focused attention on one area. Now, granted, in athletics, sometimes you want them all working together. Right? So you got to train that too. So there's times you want to really focus on segmenting them out and making them do their job and forcing them to not rely on the other muscles. And then there's time you want to bring it all back together. And it's important to bring them all back together, but it is important to separate them out too.
Right. In a controlled way, you want to bring them together.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, is like everything is so, like the obsession right now is everything's got to be total body training. Total body training, total body training. That kind of stuff bothers me because they discredit all the years of people splitting up training and like that it has no merit anymore. It doesn't work. Studies have proven total body training is superior because you hit the muscle more frequently and frequency is the key and overall volume is the only thing that matters, and that's bullshit. Like there are ways to split your muscles up into individual muscle groups trained in a single session that you can still get the benefits of frequency and hitting them every 48 hours because you can train muscles that have some overlap. Pulling motions are going to get both the biceps and the back and the posterior chain. You can still do that more frequently. There's ways to sort of enhance the bro split to get the benefits of that training. But to throw it all out and say that this is not helpful would discredit the whole benefit of being able to train a muscle in a little bit of isolation to strengthen it and then strengthen the muscles that it tends to work with in isolation. And when you bring them all back together, you're getting a sum of all those parts as stronger components that now make the unit as a whole much stronger. So, as opposed to just banging your head against the wall trying to always train the unit as a whole.
Yeah. You must have seen that when you were training guys in baseball. I mean, where you had to separate things and try to strengthen certain muscle groups and then combine them for an athlete that is always doing compound things on the field. Right?
Oh yeah. I mean, all athleticism is ultimately going to wind up being very compound in terms of the the way that they function. But the corrective work alone is really trying to isolate the kinetic weaknesses, those little chinks in that kinetic chain, because we all have them. We all have them. And then if you allow yourself just to compensate around it, you can get past that for the time being. But then you're going to wind up having to, ultimately address these things, or there's going to be so many to address that you're going to be, in a bigger problem than you are now.
Then an injury happens.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Interesting to hear about all these chains. I mean, I know you're a big fan of not doing certain isolation exercises. I know you have your kind of top 5 not to do, like the leg extensions and things like that, but you like doing things standing up a lot of times. And is that to kind of involve the whole body chain?
Yeah, I think, again, most things are going to be done standing. Most activities are going to be done standing. Even just life, we live most of it actively. We live moving on our feet, walking around. So I like to get people up on their feet when I can, if I have that as an option. So if I have 2 options, a seated option versus a standing option, I like to put you on your feet. And the benefit is too, you just get something called like ground reaction forces that are just natural, that happen because your feet are actually on the ground, that transmit the forces from the ground or through your feet up through the rest of the body, that I think does help with this sort of carryover into a more, functional application of it down the road. So if I could do like a seated concentration curl, or I could do a standing barbell curl, I'll do a standing barbell curl, 99 times out of 100. Unless the absolute goal was that I wanted to help somebody who was a bodybuilder to get bigger biceps, and I felt that the concentration curl gave him an opportunity, or her an opportunity, to develop their biceps a little bit better than with the curl because of the momentum factor or whatever. That, in that case, though, would be functional, right? If a bodybuilder, function could be just aesthetically getting as big a muscle as they could have. So in potentially in that case, I would do that. But I don't necessarily just train bodybuilders. I really, infrequently do I ever train a bodybuilder. So that doesn't have as much purpose for me or value, but it doesn't mean that doesn't have to somebody.
What do your clients want more than anything? Or what do the comments in YouTube want from you more than anything? Is it always the basics? Is it always, I want to be bigger, I want to be leaner, or I want to have less injuries? What is it?
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I do think that the immediate thing is I want to look better. And ironically, it didn't change for the athletes either. Athletes come in and they know they got a certain thing they have to do, but they always, every guy wants to still look better, because outside of the 2 or 3 hours they're playing their game, they're living 21 other hours of their day, in the body that they have, and they want to feel better and look better. And I think that that's just natural for people. But they also do want to feel better in terms of, like, they don't want to ache, and they don't want to have these nagging injuries. They don't want to be able to, every time they try to do the bench press because they're told they should, or the squat or the deadlift, every time they do, the next day they can hardly get out of bed because their shoulders are bothering them, and their back is bothering them, and their hips are bothering them, and their knees are bothering them. Like, they don't want that either. So I do think that a lot of the guys that follow me, probably because of the PT background, they are kind of sick of feeling like they're 30 years older than they are. And they come to me with those requests. And a lot of the athletes, I get a lot of people that come to me because of specifically, can you help me with my shoulder? Can you help me with my back? And to the naked eye, these guys are out there performing, you wouldn't even know that they have a problem. You wouldn't even know that they have a back problem. You wouldn't even know that they could hardly lift their shoulder over their arm up over their head. You just don't, but like
a lot of like UFC fighters can't raise their shoulder over their head. I mean, there's a lot of injuries out there.
And they still do it, and they get by, but like, privately they're fed up with it, and they wish there's something they could do about it so they could just feel better.
And you usually solve a lot of these problems when people come to you? I mean,
I think so. Yeah, I
lower
hope
back
so.
pain, shoulder pain. I mean, because like a lot of your videos are about really specific solutions to this, and they go pretty deep. They're actually usually not complicated, but you would never think of them unless you understood the physiology.
Yeah, there's not, a lot of times there aren't such complex fixes, but again, I think it's the willingness to sometimes dial back, accept the fact that maybe I'm going to take 1 step backwards or 2 steps backwards, but I'm looking to jump 5 steps forward ultimately. And that's hard for people. That's hard, just to be willing to do that. I'm one of them, believe me, I am. It's hard to get me to slow down and take a couple steps back, but realizing that when you do this, you're going to ultimately wind up in a better place the fix doesn't have to be that complex. They just have to be willing to do it, and then they have to be willing to be consistent with it. And consistency is sort of I think where the biggest stumbling block comes.
That's one of your mantras, is consistency.
It's gotta be. Everything's consistency.
Talk about that.
I mean, like I just said, even if you could consistently, so to put that body together, that aesthetic body together, even if you could get yourself to go to the gym, that's, let's just round up a 1 hour ordeal for you to go to the gym. There's 23 other hours in the day that you could fuck up your nutrition to the point where you just sort of ruined everything you did in the gym. And that is why most people struggle with nutrition. I say that all the time because the level of commitment, think about how hard it was to get yourself to go to the gym when you first started training, or just work out at home, wherever it is, but like to do it on a consistent basis, even 3 times a week, 4 times a week, 5 times a week, you do that. Then you've got to somehow get a hold of how you're eating for 23 other hours in the day for the rest of the day. Obviously you're sleeping at some point, but there's the level of commitment is not even close. So people can do the physical part, they can't do the nutrition part, which is why so many people suffer and struggle with that mightily. But when you can develop some strategies to do it, which I try to help people with, and most of my strategies for nutrition are about dumbing it down and becoming much more simple. Don't start counting your macros and your this and your that. Like, that is a recipe for disaster, literally, because because you can't do it that long term, You want to be able to build in the tools that somebody can actually utilize and give them a chance of being consistent with it. The first time that I'm not around that particular food, or I don't have access to the macros of that food because I'm in a restaurant, although now they like to put the stuff on the menu for you and post what's actually in it, but like, what am I gonna do, fall apart? Like you gotta become, like I use like a plate method I've covered in my video before. Just divide your plate up. Protein in this sort of 1/3 of the plate, and then you have fibrous carbohydrates and starchy carbohydrates. Have twice as many starchy or fibrous carbohydrates as starchy carbohydrates. There's your plate, and don't pile it up. Doesn't mean that you could go like this with it. Keep it about reasonable, a couple inches high, and there's your plate. You could do that wherever, whenever, without having to break out calculators. And
right.
And one of these days, you're going to get tired of calculating stuff and trying to dial everything in. And I think that's the first excuse you had to be like, yeah, I'm done with this. And that's certainly not going to engender consistency.
Right. So 1/3 of your plate is some lean protein, chicken or fish or beef.
Yeah,
1/3 of the plate is fibrous carbs like broccoli or vegetables too. Or?
Yeah, in that remaining 2/3,
Yeah.
I say then go twice as many fibrous carbohydrates than starchy.
Okay.
So just kind of like if this is the portion size of your starchy, then double it up in terms of.
And what's a good fibrous carbohydrate that you tell people?
I mean, there could be so many. I mean, I hate to make it sound uninteresting, but like broccoli, it could be spaghetti squash. It could be anything that you sort of find interesting and that you enjoy. It could be asparagus, and not, by the way, not boiled asparagus, and not. Again, there's the consistency thing. Like we
Nobody will do that consistently. Is what you're saying.
No, I've never done that my whole life.
Make it taste good.
Yeah, I've maintained my leanness my whole life because I actually enjoy what I eat. Like I'm looking forward to my next meal and what I eat, even though if it's fairly repetitive. I look forward to it.
Right.
And
so
if
you
you're
saute
not,
the asparagus.
absolutely,
right?
And lemon and garlic and I'll put like spices on it, and yeah, like I covered my oatmeal that I eat in the morning. Like if I had to eat for the last, I don't know, I've probably been eating oatmeal for 20 years. If I had to eat just oatmeal with water, like that's it, there's no way I would have given that up 19 and a half years ago. Instead, what I do is I have oats and I put cinnamon and some pumpkin pie spice in it, and then I put a little bit of maple syrup, and then I put some skim milk and I make it up, and then I mix it with canned pumpkin, and I put some walnuts on it and whipped cream and a little bit of cinnamon sugar on top. Like it's amazing, but like that's how I like it.
Right.
And there's nothing in there that's precluded, from it being a healthy meal option. So I think that we don't spend enough time trying to find foods that we actually really enjoy that are still within the bounds of what would be considered, not fettuccine Alfredo, like that would be in the bounds of something that you would consider healthy.
Whipped cream's one of your vices.
Love it. Oh my God.
But you said it like it's there's actually nothing to it. You can put a spray on there. It makes you mentally feel good. It gets you excited about the meal, which keeps you consistent.
Yeah.
And the calories are
There's nothing in there. It's like, I think it's like 10 calories or something, you know?
So that's an intelligent choice.
Yeah.
Right. And a little maple syrup, most people would say, oh, what are you doing?
What is it, 20 or 30 calories,
and
you know?
it makes you happy, makes everything taste good.
And it just enhances everything,
And it keeps you consistent.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
And starchy carbs, what's something?
I mean, my go-to is sweet potatoes. I love sweet potatoes.
Okay.
Love them. But I mean, it could be, there's so many. That pasta, I eat pasta every night. Every night.
Really?
I'm Italian, you know, I eat pasta.
Wow. Any trick to the pasta?
No.
Certain types of pasta?
No.
Or again, portion
No, just
control?
portion.
Portion
The
control. And mix
issue-
the fibrous with it as well.
That's what will satiate you a little bit more.
Right.
You know, the issue with carbohydrates, I'm not against carbohydrates, starchy carbohydrates, not even in the slightest bit. The issue is that you can overindulge in carbohydrates more than any other food. Like, when is the last time I said you can have 5 steaks?
Right.
Like, if you're like, I'm good with one.
When was the last time I finished a bag of steaks?
Right. You know,
while watching Netflix.
or fat, you know, right? Like just isolated fat. Like, you don't do that. The carbohydrates of the foods, like pasta, like rice. I mean, I used to go to, I don't remember if it was Cheesecake Factory or somewhere else, but like they used to put a bed of rice on the plate that was like the whole plate and probably like that high, and then they put the food or the chicken on top. Like, I would find that I just keep going with the rice, you know? And
why do we have a propensity to overeat the carbs? Is it because it wasn't naturally in our diet as Paleolithic men, or do you think it's something about looking at it and you don't understand the concentrations in there? And
it could be
cooked food. Yeah,
it's an interesting concept. I mean,
but it's there regardless, so you have to watch out.
It's there. I mean, and I think that our bodies just tend to naturally crave them more. You know, whether it's just our brain playing tricks on us or it's our chemistry actually demanding it. Our bodies definitely crave them, and that's why I feel like when you go on these carb exclusive diets, that is not going to last long term, because you're fighting your own, you know, evolution, you know, that to the point where you can do it, and there's no doubt you'll lose weight and you'll be able to do this for a period of time, but ultimately they're going to have to come back. And I don't think it's worth investing time and effort into a plan to exclude that for short-term results that you're going to ultimately have to go back to and then relearn a whole new process. And when I'm telling you that there are absolutely ways to healthfully include carbohydrates and a lot of the starchy carbohydrates that people love and enjoy, breads and everything else that they love and enjoy, without having to give them up, unless they have some other condition, if there's, you know, celiac or whatever that would preclude that from being an option. I mean, I'm talking about just people that are trying to make these choices based on whatever's, you know, available.
Right. So 3 meals a day, the plate's not piled over, you're splitting it that way in your training. That should be enough to get you where you need to go consistently.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah. So that's all you need. Basically.
Yeah. I mean, and I also think the value of the clock is helpful too. Like, one of the things that I've done, excuse me, one of the things I've done is I've tried to eat around the clock in terms of the certain times throughout the day. Like, I have times in my day when I prefer to eat. And what it does is it just keeps you a little bit more responsible. Like, when people wake up and they don't have any plan for when they really eat, they then tend to eat just sporadically throughout the day. And it's very easy to lose track of what you're consuming when you're just a sporadic eater throughout the day. I think that's one of the bigger issues that people have. Probably one of the reasons why, like, intermittent fasting had a lot of success for people, because it does start to apply some rules, at least around timing. Hey, this is your window. You can eat within this window a little bit sporadically, but this is your window. And when the window closes, it closes. You're not supposed to eat anymore.
So it kind of cuts down on snacking as a side effect of having that intermittent fast.
I think for the grazers, people that are grazers find a lot more success in intermittent fasting because it applies rules, you know, to what the weakness is.
But you like fixed meal times.
I just like fixed meal times,
Keep you honest, which means you're not eating at those.
Yeah, like, I might get somewhat hungry in the middle of those meals. Now, if I'm starving in the middle of those meals, like, I'll eat, because I think your body's trying to tell you something. Of course, for me, it's always going to be something I'm going to reach for, something that's healthier. Right. But if you're close to the next meal and it's like an hour away and you're hungry, the fact that there's a time in place for you to eat, like, I'm good until then, I'll be fine until then. Like, I know it's coming, so if I had no set time, I might not know when it's coming next, so I would just grab food.
Right.
So I think that's one of the values of having that additional rule of the time and the constraint. Yeah.
Do you fast or intermittent fast?
I don't. And the only reason why I don't really experiment with my nutrition these days is just because I like where I'm at. I'm not particularly fond of the low body fat is something that's very natural to me. The one thing I don't like, I've commented before, is like if I could just take a little bit of fat and put it right in my cheeks here, a little bit in the neck, where I lost, that'd be good there. But
this is what happens when you get to be our age, right? We're in our 40s,
right.
It's almost mid 40s for you and late 40s for me. Is that I find if I'm ever getting like abs, I start looking like a skeleton in my face.
Yeah, I mean,
my wife complains.
Sucks. I hate it. It's like that. I do wish I could sort of change that, but that is one of the consequences as you start to go down lower in body fat. You don't get to be very selective about where it comes off.
Okay.
And problematically for guys, we do seem to retain it a little bit on the lower abdomen too. So you can get pretty lean everywhere else, and you might even start to lose it in the face. And you still haven't lost it from your lower belly. And it's like, if you keep going with this, maybe you will finally start to lose it there, but at what expense to the rest of your appearance? So that can become tricky, especially as you said, you get older.
And I think you said before that being lean over time is one of the best things you can do for the later years. And so this is a great lesson for anybody listening now, is that don't think, well, when I get 40, then I'm gonna lose the belly, because that's actually not gonna be possible, right?
It's so hard. It really, it's not that it's not possible, but it's so hard to create even a certain look. I've been doing this now since I was 13 or 14. I've been working out and into health and fitness for such a long time that I was able to develop what I call muscle maturity, because the muscles have been maturing under this tension we talked about before and load for so many years, and they've sort of been constantly adapting to that stress. When you don't train your whole life, or you're not worried about what you eat your whole life, you develop a certain look to your physique that when you then say, okay, now I'm going to decide I'm going to do something about it, you've missed all those developmental years, and even the hormonal influences that you get in those teen years and late teen years and early 20s that help to really shape what it was you were developing. So it's just a lot harder. And then just because of the normal aging process that makes things a lot slower to happen, you're really sort of shoveling shit against the tide if you really want to make significant changes at that point.
So get started early.
Yeah, just
make it a lifestyle.
Yeah. And it's I love it. I mean, I'm sure you love it, right?
I train every day. Now I love it mentally. For me, it's a break. I get to release. I get to go do something really enjoyable. Yeah. I feel better. I eat better.
And it makes you feel as if you're in control of something, right? Yeah. You're in control of you for a certain period of every day, and how you feel and how hard you're going to push yourself, and there's a mental battle in your own head of I kind of don't really want to go today, or no, go, you can do it, and then I don't really feel like lifting this, but I'll try. You're able to have these little victories in your own head that just make us feel better and more successful as people. So I find there's so many depths of training that are beneficial beyond just, hey, I got biceps now, And I think if people see that and realize that mentally and even spiritually, that they can get a lot of benefit from training, they wouldn't be so reluctant to start earlier on. Because think about it, even as teenagers, teenagers these days have more stresses than ever before. It's probably a great refuge for them to just go and start training and becoming more confident in themselves and their own abilities. So I wish more people would start early, and then yes, they'd have those benefits down the road too.
Do you think everybody should be training daily, whether you're 12 or 112?
Well, I don't know about daily in terms of the actual physical training. I very much believe in the value of an off day and recovery. Recovery can come in the form of active recovery, where I'm just shooting hoops with my boys or something like that. That is active recovery. That's certainly not going to impede your muscle recovery because you're shooting a couple baskets. So I think that some activity is a great thing. But it's that commitment to nutrition that we talked about. That should be 7 days a week. Are you allowed a cheat meal? It depends on what your aspirations are in terms of how low you want to go. That will determine the forgiveness of the nutrition and how many times you can have those meals that might not fit the plan. But the commitment to the overall process should be there 7 days a week, and And I think that every single person in the world could benefit from it. For one, it could be something completely, it could be all mental for somebody if they are not even that really into the aesthetic side of it or the performance aspect of it. It's just the act of doing something that they can control. We can't control whether we get sick. We're out of control. Our body is betraying us, and there's nothing we can do about it. There's a lot of people that are sick with cancer, and there's no element of control. This is one of the very few things that we can control, over our own bodies. And I think that should be embraced and done, something about it all the time.
Yeah, with modern times, there's such like a divorce from our brains from our body, and your brain can be filled with movies and social media
Right.
and like all this other stuff. And then the body, it's like, oh yeah, I guess I should get fit.
Right.
When in fact, they're one system that allows you that spirituality and that peace with yourself and being proud of your own discipline and even keeping your life extended.
Yeah.
But a lot of times they're still separate, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to train. Oh, you're a trainer. I'm a teacher. These are different things, but they're not different things.
No, I mean, think about it, just even when you're feeling good about yourself, how much that carries over into the teacher, right? The teacher probably becomes a better teacher when they feel good about themselves and they feel accomplished and in control of some aspect of their life. They probably just bring that to every aspect of their work as well.
Yeah.
So I think it's a really important thing for everybody to.
Yeah, I mean, my team knows that I always try to train before shows. Like it's the gym first and then the show, because I'm better.
Yeah.
I'm just better.
Yeah.
I'm feel great. I got the endorphins. I just
Yeah.
did this, and I come and I'm just a better person to be around. And hopefully I have a better conversation, and other people can feel it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if that scales,
Yeah, the energy.
it does. You mentioned cheat meals. How do you feel about cheat meals?
Again, I think it's something that allows people to maintain their sanity. And depending upon where your goals lie, I actually made a video about this not too long ago, but like if your goal is to be, let's say 12, 13% body fat, I mean, cheat meals are a thing for you. Like you can do it, absolutely. You can work them in strategically, even a few times a week, and you're gonna be okay. I used the baseball analogy a long time ago that I still rely on to this day. If let's say you ate 4 times a day, 3 times a day, and there's 7 days in a week, you got 21 meals over the course of a week. If you ate 2 of them as cheat meals, that's 19 for 21. That's a pretty good batting average. Like you're going to the Hall of Fame with that batting average. That's not where people have problems. If they ate 19 or 18 out of 21 good meals throughout the week, they would not be struggling with their weight. They could eat whatever the hell they want in those 3 meals. They would not be struggling with their weight. They'd probably have that six-pack, visible six-pack. They'd be at 11%, 12% body fat. They'd be right in that area without problems. That's not the issue. The issue is that it's not 19 or 18 for 21. It's like 7 for 21, right. And unfortunately, that might be a good batting average in baseball, but that wouldn't be a good batting average in terms of, how many times you should be eating correctly. So I think that they're a thing for people. Now, at my level of body fat, would I be able to work cheat meals in that regularly? No, I wouldn't be able to work them in 3 or 4 times a week and still maintain the level of body fat that I do. But it's important for me to maintain the physique that I have, I think, as a walking billboard for what it is that I preach. There's not a desire for me even really to do that. But I wouldn't be able to do that at this level so that the cheat meal for me doesn't become as much of an option. But again, I think you can look damn good at 8, 9, 10, 12, 13% body fat, and it becomes so much more in play at that point. So.
Yeah, there's a great video you put out that kind of shows you at 5.3% or whatever it was, 6% body fat that you had done. And you said, okay, do you want this or not? And you say, well, why do you want this?
Yeah.
What are you willing to do to want this?
Yeah.
And like you said, you can have a great looking physique at 9% body fat.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you want the 5? Just so you can, Ben, now you're back to chasing numbers.
Right, totally.
And you said, look, for me, like for you, it's not hard to avoid sugar, I think, on a regular basis. And like, okay, it's your business, you're a walking billboard. But most people probably don't have probably the discipline to do the 5% or the need, right?
Yeah, and if they fail in the pursuit of that, and then give up entirely,
go back to 15%.
Yeah, what's the point? And when it was so much, it could have been so much more. It was right there in their lap that they could have gotten to that point that would have made them incredibly happy. And that would have been a little away from that 5% level, but they never even got a chance to experience that because they were so focused on the extreme. And I think, again, we talked about that in the beginning, but I think that's sort of where our minds get a little bit misconfigured. We're looking at the extreme. We're looking at that number. We're chasing things that don't necessarily need to be chased.
To continue watching the rest of the episode for free, visit our website londonreal.tv or click the link in the description below.
Most people will never see this opportunity. Dubai luxury transformation projects have historically delivered 40 to 90% annual returns. That is incredible. These were once reserved only for insiders with access. I spent 15 years on Wall Street and I learned this: the biggest returns always go to the people who get the call first. Now, you finally can. We've just received a brand new project with major upside potential. Allocations move fast. Click the link, apply now, and speak to my team. This is your chance to see what others never will.